I haven't made a video in a few weeks. I wanted to update everybody on how my Ecdysterone Bulk was going. As anybody that's watched my channel knows, I'm on hormone replacement therapy at 175 milligrams of testosterone cypionate per week as prescribed. And I can assure you I did not use anything else besides that and my Ecdysterone formula for the last 6 weeks to put on size. I'm going to put up a before and after here, and you can see I clearly gained a lot of muscle. According to the scanner at my gym, which I do not really trust, but I made a video on that before too, but just going by, consistent weights and how that thing measures things, I've put on close to 20 pounds over the course of 6 weeks. Now that's coming from a very depleted state during a fast or shortly after a fast, and then coming up, intentionally putting on not just muscle, but a little bit of fat, a little bit of muscle, almost equal proportions in all honesty. According to that scan, I've put on 7 pounds of muscle and 6 pounds of fat and a few pounds of water. And to be honest, I believe it. I'm not super fat, but the abs are pretty blurry. I've gone from, somewhere in the 13% body fat range to, 16% range. And this is all acceptable to me because over the next 2 weeks, I'll par that fat off real easy and then start the process again. But during this time, my waist has gone up an inch. My arms have gone up 3/4 of an inch each. Lefty always lags a little behind righty. Legs are up 1.5 inches. Chest is up something like, we went from 48 to 50.5, so 2.5 inches. And one of the things that I did, besides taking the Ecdysterone fairly consistently, I did run out at the end, towards the end, and then came back on. But besides that, one of the things I did was I stopped doing any kind of powerlifting, and I've just been focusing on hypertrophy. So all my training's been on specific hypertrophy building training. So no bench press, no squat, no deadlift, just cable crossovers, very specific exercises that I've tailored to my own needs to build muscle and only build muscle. I haven't been concerned with weight, but what I've done is kept my reps in the 6 to 10 range. And if I can hit 10 reps on my heavy working set, then I raise the weight. And what I've done over the course of the last 6 weeks was I've actually doubled my output for that 6 to 10 rep range on a lot of the machines that I've used. Not so much on free weights, but I think it's just specificity that's allowed my body to adapt to that and become stronger on those machines. So once again, I don't think the pictures lie. The before picture that I've got on this thumbnail is, I think, 1 day before I ended my fast, and the after picture is from today, which is right at 6 weeks later, and I'm really happy with the progress. I went from a low, a dehydrated, depleted low of like 189, 190 to a high of 211 in the morning. So a ridiculous amount of overall weight. And of course, during this time, I'm watching my blood pressure and that sort of thing, and my blood thickness and all those sorts of things. But again, all I used was my 175 milligrams per week of TRT and my Ecdysterone formula, which I shoot for 80 milligrams in the system daily. And I break that up into 3 or 4 doses. Like I say, I ran out partway through. Just in the last week or so, I've come back on. But I think overall I missed 3 or 4 days tops over the last 6 weeks. And another update real quick. I've talked about Greg Doucette's Ecdysterone in the past. And I was under the impression, because on the website it says minimum of 10% ecdysteroids in his formula, I was assuming that that's what was in there. Now, I've sent a sample to a customer of my formula, and he was on Greg's formula right before mine. And Dan, you know who you are, and he gave me permission to talk about this. He's just used it a few days, but according to him, the pumps that he gets are very similar
to what he gets out of Greg's, but they last about 3 times longer. He says with Greg's, he can take 3 capsules, which, as I understood, would give him 3 milligrams in his system. But since I've gone back and I've delved into Greg's product a little more, and apparently his is tested out more realistically around 22% instead of 10. So we're looking at more like 6 milligrams in the system. And funnily enough, before I knew this, the fella sent me back the info and he says, it lasts for 2 to 3 hours, my product does, whereas Greg's lasts about 45 minutes. Well, good. Okay, that's interesting to me. I've never done that low of a dose, so I didn't know how that worked. But I do like the fact that mine seems to last, for 2 or 3 hours in a noticeable way. As I understand it, ecdysterone has a half-life of 4.5, 5 hours, up to 8 or 9 hours, depending on, what study you want to look at. But part of the results that you get from ecdysterone are increased blood flow. Part of it is central nervous system repair, and some of it is glucose disposal. And that glucose disposal is important when you're bulking because, what does insulin do? It's a glucose disposal agent. It's actually a nutrient disposal agent, period. But ecdysterone in high enough quantities will sensitize the muscles to, a greater insulin sensitivity. And that's one of the great benefits when you're trying to bulk, because you're already eating quite a bit of food. I wasn't eating a crazy huge amount. I think my calories were somewhere between 3,500 and 4,000 calories a day. I'm in my mid-40s. I'm not trying to get super fat. So I didn't go crazy, but I wasn't strict either. So these are my results. Again, a low of just under 190 to a high of just over 210 in 6 weeks. I've been on HRT at the same dose for 5+ years, maybe going on 6 years now. So that's a variable that didn't change. All that changed was the amount of food, the type of training, and the ecdysterone consistently, except for a couple of days. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions about this, hit me up in the comments. Hit me up on Instagram at Dramatic Physique. And of course, feel free to check out my website, which I'm currently under construction, at classicbodybuildingleague.com. Follow the links in the description.